Morning, Sunday, October 28th, or excuse me, 27th, 2024. I'm Larissa. My video diary. Oh my God. Got these little pieces of fluff all over my bedroom right now, like little pieces. I gotta bring home a needle and thread from the studio. This is K-pop, and it's so silky. It's so silky. What is K-pop? K-pop is a Japanese varietal of cotton. I have these Japanese pillows over there. Red, white, and black pillows, triangular bolsters. Yeah, and they're stuffed with K-pop. And one of them, I don't know what happened to it, but they're interesting. So they're triangular and they're like made up of triangular tubes. So like each one is a pyramid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. What is that? 15, 16, 17. I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Each one is a pyramid of 15 triangular tubes. And each tube then is stuffed, right? And they're really, really dense. So meditation cushions and things are frequently stuffed with K-pop, and K-pop is it's denser and has some other qualities that other cotton varietals don't. I don't know right now, but it's super, 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 super silky. Like it almost feels like alpaca, right? It almost feels like alpaca, but it's not. It's cotton. It's a Japanese varietal of cotton. I need to stitch that up anyway. I don't know what happened to the one pillow, but it's like a bunch of the tubes are open on the one side, and the K-pop is poofing out of it. I'm always stuffing it back in, but I need to stitch up the end of the tubes. Yeah. I don't have any needle and thread here at the house anymore. All of my sewing stuff is at the galleries at the studio. Oh, we went out to dinner last night. We had a really nice dinner. Restaurant that I'm interested in going back to again. They have an amazing wine list. Um, and I like the structure of their menu. So it's like there's one beef thing, one red meat, one vegetarian entree, and then one like chicken or fish kind of thing. And then they have a few different salads, and then they have just a couple different starters, but everything is basically a la carte, and almost everything is entirely house made. So it's like it's really nice. It's really nice. It was really good. It was really, 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 really good. And like I said, they have a really nice wine menu. So I'll be interested to see like how often their menu changes, right? So yeah, that was nice. That was nice. Yesterday, yesterday I had a nice conversation with with a woman who came in with her dog, her little old lady dog, who was very, very sweet. Little dog. Oh, I love the dogs. I do. I love all the critters. I do. Oh my gosh. Yeah. 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 And I got some Omar and I did some photos yesterday, and I worked on photo layout in the January issue, which was good. Um and I'm working on some new jewelry stuff to have for the holiday season. So I have some, fresh stuff. So yesterday I got 4 pair of earrings done, and I got 3 or 4 more pair to finish. And the last couple pairs are easy, more simpler. The first two pairs I made are kind of ornate, and they took a lot of wire wrapping, and it was uncomfortable, physically uncomfortable. Yeah. Yeah. And I also decided I changed my cover photo for the January issue. And the cover photo, the new cover photo is really cool. So I'm pretty pleased about that. I have this other piece, and after talking to this woman yesterday, I think I'm going to change this piece that I have. So I have an interactive installation piece that I have been scheduling when you can interact with it, but I think I'm going to remove that restriction. So the clothing swap event, right, that is free to the public. I've been framing it as an event, but it's not really an event. It's a concept piece, and it is in part related to the garments that I make for sale. So I have it installed in the very front room gallery, and that's also the space where I have the new painting series that I'm going to start the second piece on. The second, well, it's not even the second piece. It's like the 11th piece or the 12th piece or something. But the two main finished pieces, right? Like I'm working on the second finished piece, right? Because I have all the studies done and I have the first piece done. It's the undervalued, disrespected, abused, raped series. And it's the comparison that series is comparison of abuse of women's bodies, abuse of women to abuse of our planet, of land, of the earth, of our mother earth. And um, the garment industry is a big part of that, and so that's why I have this juxtaposed to this series in the front. I also wanted to make sure that this interactive piece was separate from the space where I have the garments that I make for sale, because I don't want there to be any like moving back and forth, because it's stipulated that, the pieces that are the garments that are involved in the clothing swap piece are separate from the pieces that I make for sale. So, the idea of the clothing swap, I was talking to this woman today. She's like, I can just bring the stuff in. I'm like, no, you can't just bring stuff in. You have to swap. That's the whole idea. And so, you know, um, for the clothing swap, I have these garments that are hanging, and they all have tags on them. And the tag says this garment is not for sale. This garment is available for swap. And the rules of the swap are that you have to bring something in that is clean and in good repair, and swap it out. So, I've been advertising this as an event to come do this with other people, but I think I'm going to change that, to make it more accessible, kind of thing. Um, you got to bring something in. You can bring something in anytime during any hours and swap with that. You can interact with that piece, and it's just about, um, being conscious of, getting something because you need it, you know instead of just because you like it, or not maintaining status quo. Like it'll be or not status quo, but balance, like, so you're replacing something, and the balance always remains the same. So there'll always be the same number of hangers on my swap rack, right? And those items in there might change out, but you bring something in, you take something, you put something back, right? So it's just about consciousness in consumption of garment, because then I have it next to those paintings. Thank you. Look at him. Are you gonna go do chickens now? Okay. So I'm really kind of pleased about that. I think that there's probably going to be a change, or I'm going to have to add something into the December issue about it, because I think it's important. I'm definitely going to have to update the website and update the page. And that means I will have to be moving that page out of the events, because right now the clothing swap is listed under events, and I'm gonna have to move it to portfolio because it's a conscious shift in it's a shift in my personal consciousness about the piece, right? The framing of it, the context of the piece, from event to installation. And I've been moving in that direction when I bought the fucking menopausal brain farts, when I bought the display rack for it, right? So, yeah. Yeah. That's a big shift. It's a big shift. It seems subtle, but it's a big shift. Um, and I'm gonna have to do some signage then and posting of the rules. So that means I have to order that and then post that with the piece. So it's understood that that is an interactive installation piece. Yeah. 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 And it's not going to get big. She's like, you have to stop. I'm like, yeah, because I don't want to be a dumping ground. This isn't about like just dumping clothes. This is about conscious interaction and consumption. She's like, oh, so yeah, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. So I have to take some photos of the rack installed. That's gonna have to wait though, because right now I can't get directly in front of it because I have those materials laid out to flatten, to prep that surface. So I'll be able to take that photo in probably about a week. So I don't know, maybe it'll probably end up in the January issue instead of the December issue. The website will get updated first, and then I'll have to write something for the January issue about it. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. So today I have a whole bunch of stuff to do around here. I want to go into the gallery, but I'm probably not going to be able to. And I'm feeling kind of badly right now. I'm having an emotional kind of. So there's been somebody who's been sleeping outside of my space, and there's been altercation. And last night they parked themselves in front of the gallery, and I know people need a safe place to stay. I'm not sure who this person is. We haven't spoken. There's been altercation. I don't want them to feel like they have to fight. I don't know what their intention is. Is this a person who is, just sleeping there? I don't, there's been a guy that's been really kind of destructive, and I can't tell if the person that was laying out there this morning was that guy or not. But I don't want there to be back and forth. I don't want there to be scuttle. I don't want anybody getting hurt. I'm So, I called on it, and I'm just feeling conflicted about it right now. And as I sit here in my nice clean bed, you know, I'm feeling conflicted, but I also just like, I don't want there to be trouble. And, you know, I don't want there to be trouble. Anyway, anyway, anyway. So, yeah, looking forward to starting to prep that surface this week. And getting that painting finished. Right. Yeah. So the earrings that I was working on yesterday are cute. I got all these guitar picks. Oh, I shouldn't talk about it. Shouldn't talk about it. I should just wait till they're all done. Post photos, right? Yeah. Post photos on the website. And I put photos in I put photos in the e-newsletter. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Anyway, I need to find somebody to model the earrings for me. Oh, or just have Omar take picture of them in my ear. Yeah. Or just put them on a rack and photograph them on a rack. It would be nice to have them in an ear though, to show them. Then I gotta wipe everything down. Oh, wipe everything down. I use tea tree oil to wipe down things, to wipe down ear posts. I did this fashion show years ago. Years ago. This was back when I had Studio 19. Back when I had Studio 19, and I did the fashion show at the Black Rep in Berkeley. And they were all surprised when I showed up and I wasn't black. I wasn't dark. They thought because of my name. Yeah, because of my name. When I showed up and signed in, they were like, "Oh." It was very funny. It was very, very, very funny. I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "Do you want me to leave?" They're like, "No." They liked the work. I mean, because I didn't send any pictures of me when I applied for the show. I didn't send any pictures of me. I just sent pictures of my work. They're like, "Oh," when I showed, they were all surprised. But they got all upset with me because when the ladies that were on the runway, my jewelry was on the runway with garments, and when I gave the ladies the jewelry to put on, I wiped everything, and when they gave them back to me, I wiped everything, and they got all offended. The one woman got really, really, really offended. And she's like, "What do you think? I have something." I'm like, "I don't know that you do or don't." I said, "But you're trying these on. They're going on a hole in your body." I said, "I cleaned them before you wore them too." But that's what I use. I use tea tree oil. I use tea tree oil. Yeah. That's what I use to clean my earring posts when people try them on. But in the gallery, I don't let anybody try them on. The only person that's tried on earrings in the gallery has been me. Like I said, I wipe them. Oh, anyway, I wore a pair for the photos that Omar and I took yesterday. I need to wipe those ones. I didn't wipe those ones, but I just didn't do that yesterday. But I do. I wipe them. I use tea tree oil. She got all offended that I wiped. She saw me wipe the earrings before I put them back in my box, in the box that they were in for that fashion show. I'm just like, oh, I wipe them for everybody, not just you. Oh gosh. There was one gal. She was wearing this pink dress. It was real pretty. It was like a oh it was ruched, and it was real old Hollywood kind of style. It really was. It was real old Hollywood kind of style. It was ruched, and it was like this antique pink, and it had a bit of like a fishtail flare at the bottom, and she was real. Um, she was tall and slender, but she wasn't bony, right? Um, and the dress looked really, really nice on her, and she wore she wore the piece that Svetlana Kennelson wore in the photo shoot for San Francisco Magazine, and it looked really really nice. It looked really, really, really nice. And the dress was it was like a sweetheart neckline, but then it dipped in the back. And so that necklace you could wear forward or down the back the way I had it made. She wore it. I said, oh, first she put it down the front. I said, no, no, no. I said, try. I said, put it down, let it fall down your back. And she was like, oh. And then it has had the matching earrings. Looked really nice. Looked really, really nice on her. Yeah, that piece of jewelry. I'd like to do metal work again, but it's just like I have so much. I need a new regulator for my B tank. And just because I don't trust the one that's on there anymore after they stole the handset out of my Fornum. After they stole the handset out of my Fornum, um, there was other stuff that was damaged, and my regulator was not attached to a tank at that time. I think I did have the B tank. Did I have a B tank at that time? Or did I just have the regulator? No, I had a B tank at that time, but I didn't have the regulator attached to the tank. And when I attached the regulator to the tank, because it's attached to the tank right now, I'm not convinced that the gasket is flush. Like I can't, you know, like I'm not sure that if I were to strike it, that I wouldn't have blowback into the hose. And if there's blowback into the hose, that'll explode the tank. That would kill me. So, or at least blow off parts of my body. And I don't feel like doing that. I don't feel like doing that. So I think I need to get a new regulator. Yeah. Yeah, my tank should be full. It should be a full tank down there. Yeah. So a full tank. I did that. I went and exchanged the tank that I had because it wasn't full for a full tank, because a full tank is more stable than an empty tank or a half full tank, right? That's when it's like that's when it's the most volatile, right? So, you know, I mean, it's locked down, so the tank is closed. There's no pressure on the regulator. Um, but anyway, it's a acetylene. It's acetylene. Yeah. I was looking at Omar and I were talking about the adhesive because um, he's gonna install the new fire bricks in the wood burning stove today. And there's adhesive and stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, the guy said that it cures the first time you fire it. I'm like, oh my God. And he said, the guy said, make sure the windows are open. I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna kill our fish. He's like, I don't think it's gonna kill the fish. I think it might kill the fish. I hope it doesn't kill the fish. I love devilfish. Devilfish is so big and beautiful. It would really suck for him to get fumed to death. Oh my God. Yeah, I'll cry. But I'm like, I don't want to be in the house like with that. And so I was looking at the adhesive last night, and it says caution contains silica, crystalline silica. So I'm sure it's ground up crystalline silica, but what does that mean? It means that it is partially fired batch that's been ground down. It's like faience. So um, the adhesive is actually a glass, and it's gonna so like when you use your flux on your metal and you have it on the fire brick in your solder station, some of those fluxes get real glassy and they stick down onto the fire brick, and that's what this stuff is. So it's gonna be like a grout, right? So it's probably a lot of the same stuff as like what's in flux, or it's going to be like stuff that is the adhesive that you use um, when you're doing champleve, cloisonne, um, enamel work, right? So because that's ground glass, that's also ground silica, crystalline silica. That's what enamel is. It's enamel. So when you're doing enamel work, then that is it's either hide glue that burns out, or it is um, agar agar, or Oh gosh, gum arabic. What's the other one? There's a third one. Guar gum. Those are things that they use in vegan baking. Emulsifying agents, right? These emulsifying agents they're used in adhesives, and it's probably what's in this with the ground silica, with the ground fions. And so that's why it heat cures, because it burns out all of that filler, the actual adhesive parts, right? The emulsifier. So the stuff that suspends the silica in the it's viscous, right? Real thick, and there's gonna be a lot of it. Because like when you do enamel work, it's very dilute. It's in water, right? And you paint that stuff in. But I was squeezing the tube. This is real thick. So, you know, it's a more concentrated um, mixture. And it's a mixture, not a solution, I don't think. I don't know what I have to say. I don't know. I don't want to be in the house when it gets fired. That's all I know. I don't want to be in the house when it gets fired. And I think Brody should be outside and poor Sassy. Maybe we can put Sassy down in the basement. But Homer's like, it doesn't say anything about masks or anything. I'm like, yeah, I know. Whatever. Anyway. But that's interesting. It was interesting to me to like, because I was like, what the hell kind of adhesive is this going to be? And I'm like, oh, that makes sense that it's enamel. It's like a low fire, low grade enamel. I guess it's gonna be super high fire because it's gonna be like in there all the time. But it'll get brittle eventually. It eventually does. It's like, so why we have to replace the fire bricks now, right? Yeah, because the adhesive has pooped out. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I was thinking about my Uncle Greg recently, and his we were talking about why his wife was so mad at me when my grandma had her stroke, and why she called screaming at me, and why she's been like, oh, she's had it out for me. And they've had their I don't even know what's going on with my family because I don't talk to any of them, and none of them talk to me or whatever. But the whole reason she was mad at me um, when I was back there when my grandma had her stroke, when Uncle Greg was there the one night, and it's like I decided that I was going to go over and stay with my other grandparents while I was out there doing that after this, because it was just like every friggin' night come home from the nursing home with my grandma, and having to take my pap to the doctors, because he was going to the doctors like 3 times a week. And I'd be there. My Uncle Greg would be there, and he'd be fighting with my grandfather, and it was always, give me money, give me money, give me money, and they were fighting because he wanted them to buy him another car because he had burnt out his transmission doing my grandma's, oh, he's out there doing donuts. And this was leading up to before my grandma had her stroke. This was happening, right? So he was doing sideshows is what he was doing. And she was always fighting with him because she's like, oh, and he's like, he has no business out there. None of them have any business out there doing that. It's dangerous. She says, but he especially doesn't have, she's like, they're just using him. He's a big joke. He's a clown, and he doesn't understand that. They're all out there driving sports cars doing that, and he's driving that Focus, and that Focus isn't a sports car. It's not supposed to be doing that out there. That's not a high performance car, and blah blah blah. And anyway, burn out the transmission. And he said that the transmission got burnt out because Sharon drove so much back and forth to school. It's not because he was doing anything. And it was going on and on and on about this. And Sharon was mad because she wanted the car, and it wasn't just her that was using the car. It was also her brothers who were using the car too. and her whole family was using this car. It was like the community car. Anyway, we had a Focus, and their Focus was new, and it burnt out the transmission. Like they had a brand new one. Ours was an '02, and this was like in 2008, 2009, 2010, that time period. So like ours was old and theirs was new, and she called me. This when she was telling me all this. The first time, wasn't often that my grandma called me. Usually I had to call everybody, but she called me and she's like, Larissa, it's Grandma Rose. That's what she would always say. I'm like, I know, Grandma. Grandma Rose. Like she needed to tell me who it was. She says, you have a Focus. I said, yeah. So she says, you ever had any problem with your transmission? I'm like, no, Grandma. We've never had any problem with our transmission. She's like, well, how old is yours? I said, it's 2002. She's like, you never had a problem with your transmission. I said, no. She said, is there a problem with Focus's transmissions? I said, well, you have to ask my dad. I said, he'd know better than me. I said, but I don't think so. I said, there's never been any recall on our car for anything. I said, why? And that's when she told me. That's why I know all about that. 'Cause she's like, blah, 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 blah. And he's a clown, and he doesn't even know that they're using him, and he's just a big joke, and he thinks he's out there, big man, doing donuts with the gangsters. I'm like, oh, my God. She said, doing donuts. He's out there doing donuts. Yeah, so that's why his wife was mad at me, because my uncle, they almost had them convinced to buy them a new car. And my grandma was like, well, no, we're not buying him a new car if he's going to be doing that to the transmission. He doesn't need a new car. And so she was pissed at me. She was pissed at me. And so when I went back after Grandma Rose had her stroke, then at night he was over at the house, and it had been a really long day, and Grandma had cried. Roseanne had showed up and made her cry, and it had been a good day until that point. Like physical therapy had been really, really rough, and Grandma and I had spent, they told me at the nursing home when she was at the rehab center, they're like, we're really glad that you're here with her. It's very helpful, because I was like an aide, right? Like I wasn't in the way. I was like an aide. But when my aunt would show up, then it would like all hell would break loose. And so like it'd been a hard day of physical therapy, and my grandma was feeling tired and she was feeling depressed about her body. And then my aunt showed up, and like my grandma started, it was just this big weepy friggin' mess. And when I got back to the house, I had to make dinner for my grandfather, and Greg showed up, and I was trying to prep stuff so that I would have stuff ready for the next couple days to make dinner, and I wouldn't have to like do as much work, have stuff already chopped or whatever. And Greg was just like, he was just eating. He ate like two things. Like my grandma always had all kinds of stuff stocked up because she made lunches. She made lunches for like 15 kids in the neighborhood. The neighborhood had become a low income neighborhood. It wasn't when they bought their house. They bought the house when it was new, right? In Garden City. And it was a fancy neighborhood at that time, it was like, a fancy middle class neighborhood. As fancy as middle class neighborhoods can get, right? But it had become low income. And there were a lot of, she knew everybody's business. She was always calling and saying, oh my gosh, pray for this one, pray for that one. This one's mother was out in the front yard doing this, and I had to make him lunch and dinner and blah, blah, blah. Like all these kids came over. My grandma fed all of them, because, moms were turning tricks and, didn't have food in the house, and, or so she had like 3 or 4 refrigerators downstairs, and then she had the refrigerator upstairs, and the one refrigerator downstairs was all milk and eggs and lunch meat, right? Another one was like all pop. The other one was the one was a freezer, and it was all like she had all kinds of bread and things that all the stuff, cakes and things that she would bake, and other stuff frozen. vegetables and things frozen to be ready. She'd make these trays of breaded pork chops and breaded chicken cutlets, and then she'd have them in the freezer, and then she'd take them out and put them on a pan in the oven. And she was, oh my God. When I think about it, when I was like, oh my God, what, you know, when I saw all of it, by the time I got there, my mom went out for the first month, and I went out for this. No, I went out for the first month. My mom went. It was the other way around. I can't remember. Anyway, by the time I got there, like a lot of the stuff in the freezer was already dwindled down. Right, there were only like a week's worth of dinners and stuff that were left in there that she had prepared. And oh my God, my grandma, my grandma and her babushka and her wooden spoon. Oh my God, oh my God, my nose is itching. Oh, yeah. Yeah. She'd call me and tell me I had to beat that one with a wooden spoon, come in my house and blah blah. I'm like, oh my God, Grandma, you can't be beating other people's kids. She's like, oh well, he can't come in here and talk to me like that when I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I mean, she wasn't like beating kids, but you'd get whooped with the spoon. Oh my God, she'd smack you on the back of the thighs. That's what she did. You get smacked on the back of the thighs with the spoon. But yeah, like there were like 15, 20 kids in the neighborhood that she was feeding regularly, packing lunches for school, jumbo sandwiches, hard boiled eggs, Pringles potato chips. Anyway, I was talking about my Uncle Greg. So stood there and ate 2 containers of Pringles, and I'm trying to get. He's like, "What are you making?" I'm like, "It was like 9 o'clock." I'm like, "I'm not making dinner for right now. We've already had dinner." I said, "I'm making stuff for getting stuff ready for the rest of the week." He's like, "Oh, you're just like Graham. You're just like Graham. You know how to make it all." And I'm like, and there were all these buns, and he was like he ate like 4 bologna sandwiches, and I'm just like, I had to go to the grocery store, and oh my God. Oh my God. So I yelled at him because he was trying to get my grandfather. He was screaming at my grandfather, and my grandfather screaming back at him because my Uncle Greg wanted to buy Skull. And his and Sharon wouldn't give him money for it. She said they didn't have the money for Skull. And so he was over there trying to bully my grandfather into giving him money for Skull, and then he was like trying to ask me. I'm like, nobody here's giving you money for Chaw. You got it. And he said, well, Sharon says we don't have the money for it. I said, well, if your wife says you don't have the money for it, you don't have the money for it. And I ended up screaming at him because my grandfather was all upset, and my grandfather had Alzheimer's, and when he got all worked up, it was just stressful. It was just really, really stressful. So eventually I was tired and it was late, and I needed to go to bed, and my grandfather was all worked up, and Greg was still in the house, and they were still yelling. And I yelled at him. I said, go home to your wife. Well, like 40 minutes later, after I get out of the shower, phone rings, and it's Sharon screaming at me because I yelled at her husband. And I'm just like, I don't have time for this bullshit. That's when I went over and stayed with my Auntie, Mama, and Pappy. After that, I said, I'm not staying here. I said, you guys can stay here and fight with each other. I said, I will still take you to your doctor's appointments and stuff, but I am not. You guys want to stay here and fight all night, you can. Anyway, I was thinking about their wedding. I sang at their wedding with my dad. Yeah, Lionel Richie song. Yeah, too wet. My love, there's only you in my life. The only thing that's right. My first love, your every breath that I take, your every step I make, and I want to share all my love with you. No one else will do. And your eyes, they tell me how much you care. Oh, I know you will always be my endless love. Two hearts, two hearts that beat as one. Our lives have just begun forever. I'll hold you close in my arms. I can't resist your charms. Oh, and love, oh love, I'll be a fool for you. No, anyway. I fucking hate music. I hate it now. I hate music. Music does nothing but hurt me. And it used to be the only thing that really brought me joy. My artwork doesn't bring me joy. My artwork brings me satisfaction. Oh, and I was thinking about that, talking about that chant. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. That's Sanskrit. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Anyway, I was talking about, may all the beings in all the worlds find happiness / contentment. I think the closest word in translation is satisfaction. May all the beings in all the worlds find satisfaction. I find satisfaction in my artwork. I used to find joy in music, and I don't anymore. Music just hurts me.